back out here at the pond, clean out. This is, I spent about 4 hours on it the other day. I'm going to spend 4 more today, and we're going to call it done. About done with this area. We got another area I think I'm going to move over to here in a bit, but just trying to get a little bit more of this peeled back from the edge, and I'm gonna get back up there and pull a little bit more out of the water. Got rain yesterday, rained when I quit Thursday. Of course, yesterday was the 4th of July, so good day to take off work anyway, right? I was gonna run yesterday morning. About watching the forecast, there's a big old bunch of rain come up from the south. Mud out of the way here a little bit. Anyway, back at it. Hopefully we'll be moving this thing out of here this next week to another job if I can. If it quits raining, I mean, we gotta get some dry weather, folks. Texas is flooding. Oklahoma's been flooding. Local. I mean, it's not like the whole state, but just one little area will get like, you know, like up here we had 8 inches overnight. I don't know what the numbers are in Texas, but they lost some people down there. I mean, that's horrible. Anyway, get up here a little closer, clean this out just a little bit more. So the technique I'm using is I kind of try to dig the drier stuff out, leave a little dam, and then I'll have to come back and we better swing this way. I don't like rubbing through that tree every time I swing. Anyway, try to keep it dry as we can. That's the technique I'm using, I guess, if you can call it a technique. I can see a couple places out there I missed a little bit of dirt, but if you ain't careful, that old stuff will splash all over the excavator. So just greased up, got fueled up. Check the floods. So far we are looking good. This is going to run down the hill, I know it is. It's going to run right into me probably. That old sandy material though, it loses that water pretty quick, so some of that stuff's set up pretty fast. But I think that's about the edge of the pond there. Reach out here, there's a little bit right in there. Kind of shallow spot. Trying not to pull too fast, throw the water around too much. I wish I could have got across this whole pond, dude. It would have been a lot nicer. Mud. You can only stack it so high before it starts coming down at you. Like I say, this guy's got a limited amount of money to spend, so we're going to do as close as we can to his limit. Ponds, I think the pond has a leak because it should be full right now. But also, with the sandy material we got, it may have never really held water very good. I don't know. Got a mudslide. Clean that shoreline up a little bit there. It was already pretty steep over here on this side, but that area there was kind of slope. We'll try to maintain that. This guy runs cattle in here, so you know, if you can make a easy spot for them to get down to the water, it's always good. Making a mess is what I'm doing, but I don't know how else you do it. A little bit shallow right in there, isn't it? If that big old elm wasn't there, it'd be a lot easier, but that's a nice tree. Need me a bucket with holes in the back to let that water out. Be a little better. That shoreline a little bit. Probably ain't real critical, but just makes it look a little better. I need to get a new bucket pin. I got some new bushings in the bucket. I thought that, or the stick, but didn't help quite as much as I thought it would. That pin's pretty worn out. Always kind of amazes me that you can have a machine that, you know, I don't know. I think if a person uses good grease and does his maintenance regular, them pins and bushings ought to last a lot longer. Of course, I understand you get guys running them on jobs. They might go out there and run it for half a day, for a week, you know. They might not think about greasing it because I only run it half a day. But one thing I see with equipment, and I've seen this in my backhoes, I used to buy cheap grease, and you know, I didn't know any better. I thought grease is grease, it's all the same, doesn't matter. And I was wearing pins and bushings out on my bucket and stick, you know, or out on my stick about, I don't know, they wouldn't run much longer than 4,000 hours, maybe 3. Well, I started running moly grease, 3% moly, and it's not the high dollar Amsoil or anything special, but it's a better grease. And I've noticed right away you could go where you were going 4,000 hours, you could go to 6,000 hours on the same bushing, same parts. So I see guys all the time use that red sticky. Oh, it's real popular in Oklahoma. It's a Mystic high temp grease, they call it. That's the worst grease I think I've ever seen for greasing machines. Now it might be great for wheel bearings, it might be great for, I don't know what it's great for, but it ain't great for bushings on excavators or backhoes. And like I say, I've tried a lot of different grease. That's my experience. Now if you look in the book on these excavators, they normally call for a moly grease. I don't think it matters what brand they are. But anyway, I've noticed a lot of places started carrying Mobile. I've been using Mobile moly grease. I think it's a pretty good quality. But even just using the Tractor Supply 3% moly, I think is better than most of the grease out there for this application. Like I say, there's different applications for different greases, whatever. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. I'm not an expert, but I have ran a backhoe for a lot of years and I have seen differences. So just sharing a little bit of my experience on that. But like I say, we're gonna try to make this thing last a long time. As far as oil changes on my backhoe, you know, I've got along real good with Rotella 1540. Just what do they call it? I don't run the synthetic oil, I just run the regular stuff. And I do oil sampling on my backhoe engine just to kind of keep tabs on it. And at almost 15,000 hours, that's all I've ran in it, was Mystic. And it's still showing good samples every time I pull a sample. And I might pull a sample on it every other oil change, which is about 600 hours. I don't think a person needs to do it every oil change unless you're seeing a problem. But I haven't done an engine oil sample on this machine yet. I likely will do one at they recommend 400 hours or 450 I think on this one. And I'll probably do a sample on it. Pull that down just a little bit there. And likely I'll be doing I will likely be doing a hydraulic oil sample on it after all the fits we had with that. So I don't do those on my backhoe very often, or I never have actually done a hydraulic sample on it, but I probably should. I probably should run my oil through my lubrifier filter system once in a while on it just to clean it up. So one pass through the lubrifier and I did a sample on it after this thing had that cylinder failure on the bucket cylinder. My oil sample results come back with the insolubles where they were at the limit before. It came back that they were not even showing a trace. So the lube refiner, even though it was just an engine oil filter, and even though I just did a dirty siphon through a filter, I mean, it wasn't even, you know, it was just kind of a, let's make this oil go through this 5 micron filter. That was enough to get it the insoluble levels down acceptable, or not. It was better than acceptable. They weren't even a trace. So to me, I got lucky there, I think, but to me, I think there's a lot of evidence that a person probably could extend your oil life on hydraulics by just running it through a bypass filter on occasion, and of course change your main filter, that kind of stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna call this good here. That's about the shoreline we had before. So Okay, well, we're about, I don't know. I think we're about to the point we're going to call this done on this side. I got a little bit of tree clearing to do on that little trail. We're going to go do that here in a minute, but this is real sandy material. I hope we don't cause more trouble than what we're fixing. I don't know how you keep the sandy pond from leaking. Like I said, it wasn't full when I got here. I don't know how you have the wettest year on record and your pond's not full. So I kind of questioned the owner. I said, man, this thing got a leak or something? He said, well, it just never will really fill up unless we get a real heavy rain. And so, you know, I suspect this thing's got some problems. As many trees there is on the dam, and those willow trees, they grow roots into the water and they grow roots through the dam, and what'll happen is you'll end up with when the tree dies, you'll end up with a rotted root that goes through the dam, and it just makes a little pipeline right through it. Makes a mess. Anyway, I'm making a mess. This is nasty. This pile of sand and mud will probably take a while to dry out. It will dry out faster than clay, but you know, this is kind of what the guy wanted me to do, is just dig as much as I could out of it. Now, we've added quite a bit of capacity, I think, here. But like I say, I don't know if we're causing leaks, if that's going to be a problem later, or you can see this old sand out here. It just, you know, you start messing around with that stuff, you'll be in quicksand before you know it. This excavator does a really good job of setting up on top of things. It doesn't sink in easy. That's the benefit of having a wide, long track pads on it. This thing's just super stable. I don't think you could ask for a better setup for this size machine. This is set up pretty well. Anyway, so yeah, this is not ideal. He didn't really want me to take a lot of trees out, so I'm not taking a lot of trees out. But I had to take a few out just to have a place to put the material that we're digging out. So, and I'm just kind of taking the edge off that a little bit. It's still pretty steep out in the water, and you know, I still got a little mud in there, a lot of mud in there. So anyway, I'm hoping that we don't drain the pond. I mean, that's one of my fears, is he'll call me up next week and say, hey, my pond's dry. And I'll be like, what do you mean your pond's dry? And then we'll have to figure out how to fix it. But I can't really guarantee that this is, you know, when you're digging mud out of a pond, you don't really know what you're getting into. It could be a bad deal. I hope it's not. I don't think we got through the red clay. I think the clay's pretty much there. Seemed like everywhere I dug out there I hit clay, except there's maybe a couple spots that were a little bit soft. Temperature running cool on the engine. I don't know. It doesn't really have a temperature gauge on the hydraulics. I kind of wish we had one. I might want to put one on